Hey Pixies, today I'm talking all about Disney Vacation Club, why we own Disney Vacation Club, and why we also rent Disney Vacation Club. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. I'm really excited about sharing this kind of ultimate guide to Disney Vacation Club video because I think it's going to be really helpful and answer a lot of questions for a lot of people, because it can be extremely confusing once you start looking into it. It gets overwhelming, and once you stay Disney Vacation Club, you kind of get spoiled and want to do that again and again. So I'm going to be sharing some ways to save money if DVC and renting Disney Vacation Club points, buying Disney Vacation Club contracts, all of that. We're going to kind of talk about that and see if it's going to be a good fit for your family and which kind of category you should really fall into, or if you should fall into this category at all. So for that, I'm going to have some timestamps down below so you can jump around as needed. But before we get into that, I did want to quickly introduce myself. Hello, my name is Ashley. Here on my channel, Pixie Dusted Mom, I am all about sharing tips, tricks, and hacks for helping you plan the best Disney vacation ever. Sharing tips and tricks for helping you enjoy traveling as a family, enjoying being together, even while it can be stressful, and then also sharing vlogs from our adventures all along the way. That way it gets you excited for your next magical adventure too. So if that's content that you're interested in, click that red subscribe button. I would love to have you in my internet fam. And now with no further ado, let's jump into this and talk what even is Disney Vacation Club. So for the beginners of like, what is DVC, Disney Vacation Club? What is this you're talking about? I see people throw out this lingo. What is that? So Disney Vacation Club, or the abbreviation DVC, is Disney's version of a timeshare, but it's not like icky timeshare. Like you only get like 1 week in the same room, and it has to be like, it's not weird. It's not a strange timeshare. And so that was one of the reasons that my husband and I ended up buying in the first place. Was it made sense, and it had made sense for quite a while, but we just, for whatever reason, we hadn't really looked into the nuts and bolts of it. We looked at only purchasing directly from Disney, and that was just out of our price range. We didn't know there was this thing called resale where you can buy it used. So lots of things. We're going to talk about all that. But with Disney Vacation Club, you buy points, which you exchange kind of like dollars. Like each room is like, okay, this room cost 9 points per night, or this room cost 27 points per night, or this one cost 108 points per night, or whatever. And you, in the beginning, you pick your contract when you do that, and you buy a set amount of Disney Vacation Club points. So you have money, and with that you're able to pick your use year, or if you're buying resale, the use year has already been chosen. So that's why you want to look at those contracts and see your use years, and we'll get into that in a bit. But you buy that, and each year in your use year month, so we get ours each February, so that 50 points for your contract, or 100 points, or 300 points, or whatever you buy, is put into your account, and you can use that for that year. I hope I've not lost any of you yet, but Disney Vacation Club is a timeshare, but it's not an icky timeshare. You buy points, you exchange those for your rooms, you get them each year, blah, blah, blah. Now I want to answer some frequently asked questions about Disney Vacation Club. So the first one is do I need to be a Disney Vacation Club owner? Do I need to buy DVC to stay at a Disney Vacation Club hotel? And no, you do not. You can either book your DVC rentals through Disney, so you can book it straight through them, or if you want to save money and you really like that, then you should absolutely look into renting points. I'm going to have a little lesson towards the end about renting points if that is something that you're interested in doing. So I'll have that. I do have my link below, so if you do use that to book your stay, I do make an affiliate commission, and you aren't charged any extra, so I do appreciate the support. So if you enjoy this video, you find it helpful, you do book a stay, I'd appreciate it if you did use the link. But we'll get into a quick how to book and which one is best later on. But that leads me to my next frequently asked question, is why should I rent versus book through Disney? So when you book through a rental company like the one I suggest, which is DVC Rental Store, they are our hands down favorite out of all the plethora of different ones that are out there. They have both monthly payment options. They do offer a cancellation policy, which up until recently they were the only DVC rental company to even offer this sort of thing. So that's really exciting that they do have a little bit of wiggle room in there. So if life happens, you do have a little bit of that. But the biggest reason you would want to book through Disney versus renting, which you are going to spend more, so renting is going to save you hundreds, which we'll show in just a bit. But when it comes to booking your Disney Vacation Club stay through Disney itself on the Disney World website or on the Disneyland website, you do have their cancellation policy, which is a little bit closer to check-in versus the DVC Rental Store cancellation policy. So that's kind of a difference, but you are going to be spending more money to rent through Disney more times than not. And then the last one is is this legal? Like, is this real? Like, are you joking? Am I gonna show up? Am I not gonna have a reservation? Because that was me fully when we first rented DVC points the first few times. Like, we rented through individuals, we rented through a lot of different places, and that's why I highly recommend you use DVC rental store to kind of alleviate some of that drama. But we rented a lot of things, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're pulling up at Grand Floridian. I had saved thousands, and I'm like, we're gonna get up here and we're not even gonna have this room. This is not gonna be real, and they're gonna tell me that me and my little one and my entire family is out on the street and we're gonna be trying to scramble and find a hotel room. Like, it was, I felt like it was real. I had heard people talk about it. It seemed real from everything I'd read, but I'm like, I don't know. So it was just a little skeptical going into it all. But seriously, it is legal. We've been doing it ever since our very first trip with Lucy back in 2020. And it has been really, really great and has worked out. It's saved us a lot of money being able to rent DVC points. So yes, it is 100% legal and it works out really, really great. Especially if you like bougie on a budget, you like saving money. It is a really, really great option. Now let's talk about why you should buy a Disney Vacation Club contract or you should stick to renting. So for us, as I mentioned in the intro, we do both. We actually own a 50-point Saratoga Springs contract. We wanted to dip our toes in. We knew we liked DVC. We knew we liked staying there. So we just wanted to see, like, are we gonna enjoy the process of being an owner, or do we just really like the process of sticking to being a renter and not having all the hassle or like booking it ourselves? Do we like the back and forth? And honestly, the booking process is a lot smoother when you're doing it yourself. You're not all this back and forth and having to put deposits and do all these things. You're handling all of it and you're just handling your business. So it just makes it a little bit easier for me personally. It's like, I know I have these points. I can go in. If I see a reservation that's there, I can immediately grab it and book it, especially if it's something that's going really fast. If I see it, I can click it and book it. Versus with renting, if you do see a reservation, it's a highly coveted one. By the time you've emailed, someone could have had faster fingers than you and been able to get that request in sooner. And so their request trumps your request because it came in 5 seconds faster, kind of thing. Now you can still have that with trying to book and use your own points, but you don't have all the back and forth legwork of renting and going through that. It's very similar to if you're booking through a travel agent or someone, you're saying, hey, I want this reservation, and they come back and they're like, oh, hey, we don't have any standard views left. They only have preferred views or whatever. And you kind of do have that back and forth. It's not super taxing, but if we're talking and we're just being honest of like which one's easier, the one of owning and booking it yourself is easier. Now for us, like I said, we did a small dip your toes in kind of contract. So we only have 50 points. In theory, looking back, our mistake was not buying 75. And we'll get into that in a bit, but we could have actually had a better experience and like had the points that we fully need for our family for a once-a-year vacation if we had bought 75 versus buying 50, but we bought 50. So again, it's water under the bridge. It is what it is. But moving forward and also telling you, this is what I would do. And once we get into the buying points process, we'll talk about that. But that is why we also rent, is we have a small contract, and at the time and financial phase of our life, we are saving, we're paying off debt, we're trying to raise credit scores, and we're trying to buy a house. So those things are more important than buying a DVC contract for us right now, even though financially we tick all the boxes to, even if we were financing a contract, like it would still make financial sense for us. Ideally in the future, I'd love to pay cash for one. I think that would be great. But for even financial sense with the frequency that we go, it would make sense for us to actually go ahead and finance one. But again, I don't want to mess up my credit score. We are trying to improve it. We're trying to pay off debt. We're trying to look really good, and we're trying to get approved so we can get a home loan. So if you've been in that process, you know, you're like, okay, we're getting all the ducks in a row, and DVC is just not one of those ducks we need to throw in the pile to get in a row at this point. But at some point, I'm sure we will probably buy more DVC points. Now it comes down to, should you buy a contract or not? And one of the big things is, how often do you go to Disney? Is that something that you want to invest in? Do you see yourself going back there year after year or every other year? Do you see those things happening in your life? Do you enjoy that much? Does the rest of your family enjoy it that much? Is it one of those you're pulling teeth to try to get your husband to go? Like those sorts of things. How does that look for you and your family? And so for us, we love going to Disney. We've been going every year since 2012. So it kind of makes sense for us to own DVC points because we love going to Disney. Even with our points, we love it enough that if we were going for a resort only stay, we would do that. When we first bought our points, we needed to use some of them up before they expired. We booked a stay at a resort, and we love Disney resorts enough that we only for a 5-night stay went to the parks once. We were like, we want to go to one day at Magic Kingdom, but the rest of the time we did some resort hopping in the area, we played in the pool, we did all the amenities. And would you see yourself, even if you didn't want to spend the money on the parks, if you didn't want to spend your money on all the other stuff that goes with Disney, do you see yourself enjoying those resorts enough to just go and spend a resort only stay? I know a lot of DVC owners will do just that. They don't necessarily go to the parks. They only do resort stays because they enjoy them that much. And then the next one is, how much are you spending? So this is where you kind of want to compare some numbers to see, like, could this be saving us money? Could this be making an investment or be kind of leveling out? You could be spending a bit more money, but I want to compare some numbers, and this is kind of the simplest way that I can share it, is if you tick those boxes of, yes, we're going to go to Disney. We really love it. We want to keep going. Even if we weren't going to the parks, we love going to the resorts. If you tick some of those boxes, then this is definitely something that you want to look into, and we're going to kind of give this comparison. The biggest thing for me is it's almost like comparing renting a home or renting a place to stay or live versus owning and paying a mortgage towards that. You may be paying the same amount in a mortgage as you are renting, but when you're paying a mortgage, you're building equity in a home, and that's something that you're gonna have for years, or you have the ability to turn around and sell it. And it's similar to DVC. When you're renting or you're just booking through Disney, that money, as soon as you check out, you close that resort room door for your final time and you walk away, you're done, your money's gone, and you have your magical memories to take home with you, but that's it. When it comes to owning DVC, when you close that door, you're paying, and you've been paying towards that, and you'll continue to pay for the next year's vacation until you get it all, the contract paid off. But you're building something that, whether in 10 years your kids are like, I'm kind of over Disney, guys, and you want to do something else with it, you want to sell your contract, you want to rent your points so other families can go, whatever that looks like, you're building something that's going to last a lot longer than just renting. So let's look at some numbers. I want to pull up a screen recording, kind of talk through what I mean by this. As you can see here on the screen, I have the Disney World website pulled up, and I have a stay with no tickets selected for All-Star Movies Resort for September 7th through September 14th. That is a Sunday to Sunday. And for that stay, for resort only, it is going to cost my family of $1,352. So that is what we're looking at for a stay like that in the absolute values. Now, if we're gonna go over to DVC rental store, we're gonna just do a little price comparison here. And so we're gonna go over and get a quote. All right. So now that we've inserted our quote, we're seeing what's available through DVC rental store. So we're gonna scroll down till we find, for us, we own at Saratoga Springs, so that's what we're gonna compare it to. That is one of the two most budget-friendly stays. So the other one being over at Old Key West, if you're looking for some more budget-friendly options. The studios there, that one's gonna be $1,562. But if we come on down to our Saratoga Springs, that one for a standard studio is going to be $1,606. So it's about $50 more than the other one. But when you compare that, $1,606, comparing that to your $1,352, you're going to be spending roughly $250 more to move from a value resort to a deluxe villa resort. So when we compare numbers, we're going to be moving for $250. We're going to jump 3 categories, from the lowest, which is the value category, all the way to the highest, which is the deluxe villa category. So we're going to jump for $250 to a nicer hotel. We're going to be in a closer proximity to Disney Springs. At that resort, you're going to have a lot more pool options. You have more dining options. You have 3 different pools, 3 different splash pads. You have all kinds of options for dining and all those things that you're gonna plus up for that $250 price tag. So it's gonna look a little bit different, but you do have some nicer accommodations. I also ran the numbers earlier to just see, I won't take the time to do it now, but to stay at our other favorite moderate resort, French Quarter, was gonna cost us $2,025 to stay there. So to move from the moderate to the deluxe villa rental category of moving to Saratoga Springs, it was going to save us $400, which is amazing. Like $400, that's it for our family of 4. Like that covers a character meal, that covers multiple meals. We could do a lot of quick service eats on that one. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And even for that $2,000 price tag, I'm sure there's others that we could stay in even for equally as close. If you wanted to look here at Copper Creek, you could do a resort studio for $2,375. So that would be a difference of about $350 in comparison to that French Quarter number that I mentioned. You could do a resort studio for $1,775 over at Boardwalk. So you could actually save a couple $100 staying there as well. At Boulder Ridge, it would be $2,425. So you would be spending about $400 difference there to stay at that resort. So you are spending more money, but if you were to book through Disney, it would be almost $1,000 or more to move up from a moderate to a deluxe, and especially a deluxe DVC, deluxe villa stay. So those numbers are going to jump drastically. And then for those of you that like Animal Kingdom, comparing that $2,025 to there, the resort studios over there are $1,900 for those same 7 nights. So you would actually save $125 for your stay there instead. So definitely running the numbers and kind of comparing things would be my suggestion, because you could end up saving money by doing this. But here's where we're going to get into running the numbers of whether you should continue renting or you should buy if you check those boxes. So for my family, and I'm just going to run it my experiment, this is kind of an example, and you can run this experiment on your own family and kind of crunch the numbers for you and see what you need. For my family, for that same Sunday to Sunday in September, it would require me to have 73 points. And that's why I said I should have bought a 75-point contract. They hit on the 50, the 75, the 100 are kind of the more popular numbers that people will gravitate towards. So to go over, where we bought our contract is the sister store to DVC rental store, and it is DVC resale market. We loved working with these guys and they were really great. I also have a link down below. It is an affiliate link, so if you do purchase your contract through them, I do make a small commission. You are not charged any extra. I just get a commission for saying, hey, these guys are great. I enjoyed working with them and I think you would too. So if that's something you are interested in looking into, then I'll have that link down below. But if you go over to the listings section, we're just gonna check this out. So we're comparing Saratoga for us right now. And for that, we're gonna look for a 75-point contract. So they have one 75-point contract. And if you look on over here, you're paying all these things, which we could get into all the details of buying DVC, but there's a lot of people that are much more experienced in purchasing DVC that have a lot of advice about that. But we're just kind of comparing apples to apples the simple way, but there's a lot of decisions that you can get into with all that. But the simple way for seeing if this is working out is this monthly payment. So you're gonna have that for the length of your loan. For us, I think it is a 5-year loan or a 6-year loan, I forget, is what we paid for our contract. So we're paying monthly for those years. But when you buy DVC, if you buy directly through Disney, you get a 50-year contract on new resorts, and some of these you'll have still 30 or so years left on your contract. So that's vacation. So once you pay the $8,250, that contract is yours for the 40 years, how many ever are left on that contract that you're purchasing, which is really, really cool that you get that for the lifetime of it. But since they've already done the math for us, we're gonna take, and our monthly payment, our mortgage for our DVC would be $133.83 per month. And I've got my notes here. If you take that same All-Star Movies reservation that we had of that $1,352, and you divide that by 12 months to kind of get that mortgage or that savings payment of, like, if you were paying for it in a full year, if you divided that out, it would be $112.72 per month. This contract is $133.83. So you're looking at about a $20 difference to be paying a mortgage and paying into something that's going to last and be building versus only spending through Disney. And once you're done with your vacation, you're done with your vacation. So even for someone that's on a budget, you're staying at the All Stars, this can still be a very valid option to look into. Moving to that French Quarter reservation, that was $2,025. If you divide that by 12 months, your monthly savings plan would be $168. So with that comparison, we would be saving $40 a month. Now, granted, again, this comes down to if you're going every year or if you're going to go every other year, because you can bank points into another year. So once we get them in February, if we wanted to bank them into the next year, you can do that. Or if you need to borrow points from a previous year, you do have the ability to borrow from the last year. So you do have a little bit of flexibility, even if you aren't an every single year family. But if you're saving every 12 months to go to Disney, then this is definitely a viable option, even if you have a mortgage on it. Obviously, it's even better if you can pay cash, but if you're not in that situation, it could still be advantageous for you to look at this and run the numbers. I am not a proponent for debt, but this is one of those instances where I'm not anti this debt because it is something that is going to last. It is something you can resale if you want to. It is something that you can rent out. So it almost acts as like a rental property. And some people will do that. They'll buy DVC contracts and act as a rental broker, and they'll rent them out, or they'll sell their points to places like DVC Rental Store, and they'll do that. So it's just something to consider, is that it can make you money as well. And then finally, if we compared renting that same reservation of Saratoga Springs in a standard view studio, that is $1,606 through DVC Rental Store. If you divide that number by 12 months, you are looking at a monthly savings goal or payment of $133.83. With that DVC listing for 75 points, you're also coming out to your estimated monthly payment and this is uncanny that it matches, but look at this. It's the same amount, $133.83. Now, this may not work for every reservation. Once you get up into some of the higher resorts, the more popular resorts, you are going to pay kind of a popularity cost. So it's going to cost you more, say resorts like Beach Club, Grand Floridian, Polynesian. But there again, you're still paying into equity of vacations in the future beyond the one that you're staying in right now. So it's definitely, to me, worth running the numbers. If we had the money to do it and we weren't in the situation financially that we are, I would be buying another DVC contract just because we do enjoy going, and for us it would be a good investment, and it would allow our family to have better accommodations for just a little bit more money, literally $20 difference versus staying at even All Stars. So it's one of those things, you kind of need to do that math, but it all comes down to, do you like to go to Disney? Do you want to go to Disney? Is that something that you see yourself doing and then doing that long term? But I did want to talk about a few suggestions that I have if you are looking at buying a resale contract. The direction we decided to go personally for buying our Disney Vacation Club contract was resale ultimately. When you buy through Disney, you're going to pay more per point for most resorts. But with that more per point, you do get advantages. They have lounges that are in the parks that you can visit if you'd like to when you have a direct purchase contract. You also can get discounted annual passes, which is a couple $100s, which saves a little bit of money there. And you also get special parties, Moonlight Magic, if you've seen anybody post about Moonlight Magic, that sort of thing. You can get those. But ultimately what made the decision for us is, over the course of it, we weren't going to be saving that much money on annual passes. The difference between saving and buying our Saratoga contract and buying directly through Disney for the resorts, the price difference was such a huge savings that it's like, well, it'll take forever to recoup the savings of the resale contract in the discounts. So it's kind of pointless for us to buy a direct contract unless we just absolutely loved that resort and we wanted to get those direct point privileges. But as far as getting resale, we saved a ton of money, and you're probably going to as well. So kind of pricing that out is a great thing. Run the numbers. It's like comparing like which mortgage is going to be better. You kind of have to run all these numbers because it's a big financial decision. It's not just one that it's like, oh, if we want to get out of this, like you can sell it, but it's a whole thing. It's like if you buy a house and you end up not liking it 6 months later, you got to go through the whole process of putting it on the market. Like it's not just an easy decision. You have that kind of same tedious details and things to work through if you buy Disney Vacation Club. But I digress. You can save a lot of money buying resale versus buying a direct contract. You just don't get the benefits. So there's something to think about. Another thing that you want to think about is your home resort advantage. Do you really want that? Are you wanting to stay Christmas at Grand Floridian? Are you wanting to stay Christmas at one of the Wilderness Lodge resorts? Are there things like that that you're like, okay, we go during a very popular time when these reservations are going to book up literally months in advance. I've seen some people in Disney Vacation Club groups recently. It's January when you have Disney Vacation Club, you have your DVC home resort advantage. You get to book that at 11 months out versus everyone else that owns at other resorts gets to book 7 months out. Even at 11 months out, they're having a hard time getting Christmas at Copper Creek. They're having a hard time getting Christmas at Grand Floridian. So it's one of those, you want the best opportunity. If you're having your heart set on a hard to get reservation or a hard to get time of year, you want to own where you plan to stay. For us, we love Saratoga. We love the savings. If we can use our points elsewhere and we can grab a couple nights here and there, we're good with that. But we love Saratoga. And if that was what was left and that's all we could get at 7 months out, was we had to stick with our resort reservation at Saratoga, we're good with that sort of thing. So it all depends on what your family is wanting. Now, one thing I will say, some people buy sight unseen. They've never stayed at the Polynesian, but they buy Polynesian points. They've never stayed at Wilderness Lodge, yet they buy Wilderness Lodge points. You can totally do that. But my suggestion, especially if you're planning on using your points yourself, is to know which resort you want to stay at. And that's where renting can be really helpful. Renting a DVC resort and staying there for a couple of days, maybe doing a split stay on a trip coming up where you can be like, okay, we know we're going to want to make this purchase. Let's make sure we make the right decision of like which one we want to stay in. So it kind of lets you have that option to try before you buy. And you may have done that with resorts in the past and you're like, no, I'm ready to pull the trigger. Or you may be a value resort family and you're like, I don't know, we've stayed at other resorts, you've stayed at other properties, and you're like, I don't know which one I would like. I don't know which one is going to be the best fit for me and my family. I don't know which one's going to fit us the best and work the best. So being able to kind of do that try before you buy can be really, really helpful. But buying that home resort that you absolutely love or you're okay with staying at is going to be the better bet. One other thing that I did want to encourage you on is to make sure to think through when your family typically vacations. Now, for my family, we have used our points all over the board. But when it comes to having one, like if you really want to get one of those reservations, say you are wanting Christmas at Grand Floridian. So for us, we don't get loaded our points until February. So if we were like, oh, we owned at Grand Floridian and we wanted Christmas at Grand Floridian, we don't get our points until February. So we wouldn't be able to book in January at that 11-month out window. So we're just over here, fingers crossed that it doesn't book up really quickly, hoping that. So that would have been a mistake for our family, is to have a February use year. Actually, there's not a January use year. You would have had to buy December. So we would need to have a December use year so that those points would be loaded in December. In January, we are ready to go. We are off to the races. We're ready. Our shoes are tied. Like as soon as they say you can book, then you're able to go ahead and make that reservation. So that's just something to think about, is look at those use years and decide when your family's gonna go and figure out 11 months before that what your use year would need to look like for that. So just kind of things to keep in mind is you do want to stay, you do want to own where you really want to stay. If your heart is set on beach club every summer, then you need to own at beach club, especially if you want studios. For us, we are a mainly studio family, and so owning at Saratoga, we have very little opportunity to grab nights at beach club. We have to stalk and work very hard to try to find anything at beach club. And if it is, it's 1, maybe 2 nights. It's not, you're not finding a full week there in a studio. So if that's something that you have your heart set on, you don't want split stays, you don't want those things, you need to own where you want to stay. Now, for those of you that you're like, no, we don't want to go every time, but I do want to save money this time, I don't want to spend $2,000 at French Quarter, I want to save $400. Or I want to be able to, instead of staying at French Quarter, I want to stay at Boardwalk for the same money, or I want to stay at Animal Kingdom Lodge for that same money, or for a little bit more, I want to be able to jump up and stay at Riviera or Grand Floridian. And so running those numbers and seeing what that's going to look like for you is important. But really quickly, looking at this, there are 2 ways to rent. So you can get the quote, which is what we did earlier. So that is where you're going to click get quote and you're going to put in the exact dates you want. So this is going to give you the most customization and the most decision-making process when it comes to your stay. So you're going to put in that, you're going to put in your email, and you're going to hit search. And just like earlier, it's going to bring up all of those options of what is available at the time in DVC inventory. So you're not having to worry about them getting back to you and saying, hey, this resort isn't available. You're not picking resorts and then they're letting you know what's available. You're literally physically seeing the Disney Vacation Club inventory right there, what you can do, what it's going to cost, all that, so you can make the decision before you click the book button. And then another way, and this is how people save a ton of money, my favorite reservation that we got from this was, I think 2 summers ago, I got a studio for $200 something a night at Riviera. It was like, I think $241. It was really, really cheap, but it was literally, I paid less for our studio there than I would have paid for those nights at Caribbean Beach next door, because at the time it was over $300 to stay there instead. So it was like, holy cow, that is amazing. But for this one, you're just gonna go and browse the confirmed reservations, and you're gonna be able to click on that, and it's gonna show you what is available. Now with this, you have no customization options whatsoever. This is like when you buy a home as is. If there's cracks in the walls or stuff wrong with the driveway or whatever, you're buying that as is. That's your problem, not the previous homeowners. It's the same thing. Whoever booked this reservation, the DVC owner, has this reservation up for you to book as it is. You can't change the resort, you can't change the dates, you can't change where it's at, you can't change the room type, the view type, if that's an option. You can't change any of that stuff. So you're kind of stuck with it as is. So it's one of those, if you are a family that travels semi last minute, it's something to look into. When I got our reservation for Riviera, I think I either booked that 4 weeks or 6 weeks out. So it all depends on what your vacationing style is. We were able to piece that together. I got some really cheap flights through Spirit, and we were able to fly down really inexpensively, and it worked out great for us. But that's one thing that you kind of have to keep in mind, is what is the flexibility for you in your schedule. But if you do have a little bit of flexibility in that, or you're wanting to add on a night or two to an already existing stay, you're like, oh, I would really love to cap the trip with a deluxe resort with staying value all week, but we want to do cherry on top of, we're not maybe gonna go to the parks, but we're just gonna enjoy the resort, we're gonna eat and relax and just kind of have a vacation after the vacation, but before we go home from vacation. So if that's something that you're looking at, then doing a rental would be a great option for you. But again, I'll have links down below so you can go and check these places out if you're interested. But I hope this helped to kind of break that down. I do have another DVC video that I put out a while back, but it's really nerdy and really numbers. So if your coffee's still hot and you're still thinking about DVC, you can go and check out this video. But I hope this one has kind of answered some of those questions, been helpful as to why you can own and you can rent DVC. But now that you've made it this far, you're part of my secret end of the video club. So you've got to leave me some castle emojis, some hotel emojis down there. That way I know you're part of the secret club. And you'll have to let me know what your favorite Disney Vacation Club resort is, or your like bucket list one that you'd love to stay at. But thanks again, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.